In the year 2000, the most powerful entertainment company in America had a chance to buy a struggling little startup for $50 million. The startup was losing money. It had no name recognition. Its CEO flew out to Dallas, hat in hand, hoping for a lifeline. The executives at the big company looked at the offer, and then they laughed. Literally laughed them out of the room. That startup was Netflix. The company that laughed, Blockbuster. And within 10 years, Blockbuster was gone. But here's what almost nobody talks about. Blockbuster didn't die because Netflix was smarter. They died because of a decision made inside a boardroom that had nothing to do with Netflix at all. A decision driven by ego, by debt, and by one man who almost saved the company, before another man tore it all down. This is the real story of how Blockbuster had every chance to survive, and chose not to. In 1985, a man named David Cook opened the first Blockbuster store in Dallas, Texas. It wasn't a typical mom-and-pop video rental shop. Cook applied a sophisticated inventory system, tracking titles, predicting demand, stocking shelves like a retailer instead of a hobby shop. Within 3 years, Blockbuster had 800 stores and was the biggest video chain in America. By 1994, Viacom, one of the largest media companies in the world, acquired Blockbuster for $8.4 billion. $8.4 billion. At its peak, Blockbuster had over 9,000 stores worldwide, 60,000 employees, 45 million registered customers, annual revenue approaching $6 billion. If you grew up in the 90s, you know the ritual. Friday night, drive to Blockbuster, walk the aisles, pick your movie, maybe grab some overpriced candy from the front counter. Blockbuster wasn't just a business. It was a cultural institution. But underneath the blue and yellow logo, something dangerous was happening. Blockbuster was addicted to a single revenue stream that, without knowing it, was quietly building resentment in every single one of its customers: late fees. In the year 2000, Blockbuster made an estimated $800 million from late fees alone. Not from renting movies, from penalizing customers who returned them late. Their entire profit model was built on customer pain, and that pain was about to become someone else's opportunity. In 1997, a man named Reed Hastings returned a copy of Apollo 13 to his local Blockbuster. He'd had it for 13 weeks. The late fee was $40. That $40, real or not, because Hastings later admitted the story may have been exaggerated for effect, became the founding myth of Netflix. Hastings and his co-founder Mark Randolph launched Netflix in 1998 as a DVD by mail service. No stores, no late fees, a flat monthly subscription. You'd pick your movies online, they'd arrive in your mailbox in a red envelope, and when you were done, you'd drop them back in the post. Simple. Clean. No penalties. For the first 2 years, Netflix was barely surviving. They were losing tens of millions of dollars annually. The dot-com bubble was collapsing. Nobody was sure this company would make it. So in September 2000, Hastings and Randolph flew to Dallas. They sat down with Blockbuster CEO John Antioco and his team. They offered to sell Netflix to Blockbuster for $50 million. Netflix would run Blockbuster's entire online division. The deal made perfect sense. Antioco's response? He called it a joke. He said the dot-com hysteria is completely overblown. Blockbuster passed. Netflix walked out. Now, here's the part the story usually glosses over. Antioco wasn't entirely wrong in 2000. Netflix was losing money. The dot-com crash was real. $50 million for an unprofitable startup was a reasonable thing to question. The mistake wasn't refusing to buy Netflix. The mistake was what Blockbuster did, and didn't do, in the years that followed. By 2004, Blockbuster knew it had a problem. Netflix had survived the dot-com crash. It was growing. Customers were starting to defect. So John Antioco made a bold move. He hired a new strategy team and launched a product called Total Access. Total Access was genuinely a brilliant idea. Customers could rent DVDs online, like Netflix, but then return them to any physical Blockbuster store and receive a free in-store rental in exchange. No other company could offer this. Netflix had no stores. Blockbuster had thousands. It worked. Within the first year of Total Access, Blockbuster signed up 2 million online subscribers. They were pulling customers away from Netflix. Reed Hastings reportedly told analysts that Blockbuster had thrown everything but the kitchen sink at them. The very next day, Blockbuster sent Netflix's headquarters an actual kitchen sink in a box. For one brief moment, Blockbuster was winning. But Total Access had a fatal flaw. Every time a customer used it, every disc rented, every free exchange processed, Blockbuster was losing $2. The program was bleeding money at scale. Antioco knew it. His plan was to slowly phase out the free exchange offer once they had captured enough market share. He never got the chance. Because inside Blockbuster's boardroom, a war was being fought that had nothing to do with Netflix. A hedge fund activist named Carl Icahn had acquired a significant stake in Blockbuster. Icahn despised Antioco's online strategy. He thought Blockbuster should stay focused on its physical stores, its core business. He fought Antioco at every shareholder meeting, slashed his compensation, and eventually succeeded in having him fired. The man who nearly turned Blockbuster around was gone, replaced by a CEO named Jim Keyes, who famously said in 2008, "I'm not making this up. I don't see Netflix as a competitor." The Total Access program was gutted. Blockbuster's online strategy collapsed. The window closed. By 2007, Netflix had 6 million subscribers and had just launched video streaming. Not DVDs in the mail. Streaming. On demand. Instantly. Blockbuster had missed the DVD by mail window. Now they were missing streaming entirely. To make things worse, Blockbuster had entered the 2000s carrying over $1 billion in debt, a holdover from when Viacom had spun them off. Every strategic pivot cost money Blockbuster didn't have. Every year they delayed, the debt compounded. In 2008, the financial crisis hit. Consumer spending dropped. Blockbuster's revenues fell sharply. Stores began closing. In September 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. The company that had been valued at $8 billion 15 years earlier was now worth $24 million, a decline of over 99%. Dish Network acquired the brand in 2011 and tried to revive it. By 2013, all remaining corporate stores had closed. Today, there is one Blockbuster left on Earth, in Bend, Oregon. It operates as a tourist attraction. People visit it the way people visit historical sites. Netflix, the company Blockbuster laughed out of a Dallas conference room, is now worth over $250 billion. Most people frame this as a story about Netflix killing Blockbuster, about innovation destroying tradition. But that's not quite right. Blockbuster died for 3 specific reasons. First, debt. The billion-dollar debt load from the Viacom spin-off crippled every strategic decision they tried to make. You cannot pivot a company of that size while carrying that kind of weight. Second, internal politics. Carl Icahn's boardroom war removed the one executive who had a credible plan to compete. Antioco wasn't perfect, but he was fighting. Keyes stopped fighting entirely. Third, and most important, they built a business model on customer pain. $800 million a year from late fees. When Netflix eliminated that pain, Blockbuster had no answer. Not because they couldn't find one, but because eliminating late fees meant dismantling their entire profit structure. They were trapped by their own success. Blockbuster had every chance to survive. They had the stores. They had the customers. They had the brand. They even had a working strategy and Total Access. What they didn't have was the willingness, or the freedom, to change before change became fatal. That's the Collapse Files. A new documentary drops every day. Businesses built, broken, and buried. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss tomorrow's story.